Let's take Sarah's question here. Does God ever give up on people? Wow, I wish you were on the phone with me right now, Sarah, because I would love to know what that question springs from, because I can answer it in a couple different ways. There are a lot of stumbling saints that are wondering if God is going to give up on them. And Sarah, if that's what you're thinking about, then I'm going to say that just like Peter, who was ready to skip out on everything God asked him to do because he felt like a failure after being basically annihilated in the court of Caiaphas as that young servant girl tried to call him out as a follower of Christ, and he denied Jesus 3 times in a row. And of course, he felt just absolutely defeated. And in doing so, he ran away from his responsibility. He wasn't shepherding sheep anymore. He didn't want to teach. He didn't want to lead. He was giving up because surely he thought God had given up on him. But Jesus shows up in Matthew 21 to say, hey, we're not giving up on my children. These are my kids. These are my sheep. And I want you to get back in the game. Yeah, you failed. You stumbled. You fell on your faith. Fell on your face. And the righteous, they stumble 7 times, as the Proverbs say, and they get back up. So God's not going to give up on you, Sarah, if you are a child of God. And I would even say this, that if you are so messed up and so chronically messed up in the Christian life that you think, well, surely God's going to give up. He doesn't give up on you. He will employ the discipline of Hebrews chapter 12. And even as Paul said about the Corinthians, he may make you sick. He may make you weak. He might even take you home prematurely, at least from our perspective, and say, that's it. But that's not giving up. That's the whole argument of him not giving up on his children. Now, Sarah, if you ask that about someone in your life, or maybe you are this person, someone who's just, shining God on, you have no interest in God, you're a skeptic, whatever, or you have a relative or a friend who keeps, shining God on and not interested in anything that God has to say. They're just running headlong into their sin. Does God ever give up on people? Well, there is that repeated phrase in the scriptures regarding God giving people up to their sin and turning them over. And there is that sense in which we know non-Christians can reach a place which is not for us to judge that. We don't know when that's going to be. That's why I say if they're still breathing, they're still alive, you ought to assume there's some hope, and you ought to continue to share the gospel. You ought to hold out hope for them. Paul says he was the worst of all sinners, killing Christians, if you think about it, holding the robes of those literally executing Christians. And he said, God showed me mercy so that I can be an example of God's great patience to everyone, to the worst. So I can't make the judgment, but I do know that God, and only God can see this as God sees it, and that is he can give people up to their sin and to their rebellion, and they can pass a point of from God's perspective, at least, of they're done. They're as Judas was called, you're a son of destruction, a son of perdition. And so, just look at Romans chapter 1, verse 24, verse 26, verse 28. We have that repeated line, God gave them up, gave them up, gave them up. And that's a bad place. You don't want to be there.